So I've pinned myself, so none of you are on the live stream, just so you know. We'll turn that off when we get to question and answer. Good morning. Good to see you, Kathy. Sorry I didn't make it last week. See you again, Jamie. Good to see your name, Katya. So we've been talking about relaxation the last few weeks, and I just want to move even deeper into that discussion. So what I'm going to talk about today is the universal ground. We'll just start by talking about what the concept of ground means. And when I'm saying talking about, I'm directing your attention towards, so you can begin meditating. You don't have to get, if you don't want to, you don't have to sit in a formal posture, but you can start directing your attention where I'm directing it. Hopefully everyone knows that that's what I'm always trying to do in these classes. There's some classes that are explicitly philosophical, and I usually try to say, hey, this is just sort of, this is philosophical, this is for the mind. But even when, most of the time, even when I'm talking in a philosophical way, I'm trying to direct your mind to an experience and something to remember. So if you're sitting and listening to what I'm saying and you're trying to figure it out or get it right or remember it, that's all fine and very normal. But just start to notice, well, can I actually take these thoughts and where does it direct my attention right now? So we're going to talk about ground, the concept of ground, ultimately by talking about, we're going to move towards the universal ground. And before I've said anything else, you can start to ask yourself, what does the word ground and what does the word universal ground turn my attention towards? Now, it's an English word, so it's going to be slightly different for everybody, and different instructions and different pointers won't work for some people. You could use other words like support or even safety or foundation or earth. That might have a nice feeling to it. This is one of the most important things to realize in the meditation path, is that where we can turn our attention, and by turning our attention, we change our experience. And so we're turning our attention to this concept of ground. And so we've been talking about relaxation, and we like to think about relaxation both as a very simple concept and as a very deep concept. The very simple concept is releasing muscular tension. And what happens when you release muscular tension? Well, one of the most obvious places to notice the release of muscular tension is in the out breath. So when you breathe out. When you breathe out, naturally, there's a releasing going on, a relaxation going on. Doesn't mean you feel perfectly relaxed. Doesn't mean it necessarily relaxes all of your body, but anybody can notice that there's a little relaxation in the shoulders, the chest releases, the belly releases. Even if your breath is really disordered, there'll be some, in order to let go of the air, there has to be a letting go of muscular tension. For most of us, as we start to really pay attention to that out breath, we start to notice that the body is sort of sinking on the out breath. What is it sinking into? When we relax, we are letting go. What are we letting go into? Well, we're letting go into the ground. We breathe out and we sink a little deeper into the ground. Very simple concept of ground here, right? That is the surface that is supporting your body. But having a ground is so important for relaxation. If your ground feels unsteady or unstable, then your muscles are continually like contracting to try and protect yourself from falling over. And this is why there is thousands, multiple thousands of years of teachings about your posture in your sitting practice. To give your nervous system as strong a sense of support and ground as possible, so that it can begin the practice of even just purely physical relaxation. In concentration type practices, they will often talk about the base of the practice, and that's usually the object you're coming back to. Sometimes it is the breath itself. And so an object that you can hold still in your attention can also feel like a ground. You feel like no matter what goes on in your mind, you can come back and land on your object of concentration. Does that make sense? No matter what emotions arise, no matter what pictures are going on in the mind, no matter what thought is happening, no matter what sound is happening in the environment, you can bring your attention back and land on the ground of your breath, say, or whatever you've decided is your concentration object. Now, those are two simple ways of thinking about ground, and they might seem different, but how are they the same? If you want to make any significant transformation in your life, and you don't want it to just be forced on you from the outside, which can happen, in fact, mostly is the way it happens. Our circumstances just get radically altered and we have to change. But if you want to intentionally do it in a safe way, you need to be able to find some place of stability from within which to make the change. You can't push a boulder up a hill if you can't put your feet into the ground. You have to have something to stand on. So when we practice, we are connecting with some kind of ground. This is going to be true for almost any practice, honestly, though we may not have ever conceptualized it like this. And so, way of saying from the beginning, I am safe, I'm stable, I'm strong, I'm here, I'm located. And as we go on the spiritual path, or just the path of relaxing, the letting go that's happening is a letting go into the ground. If we don't have a connection to a ground, we're not going to be able to let go of very much. And you will get teachings which are like, hey, just jump off the cliff. And I think that's fine. And it's useful to sometimes realize that there will be a moment you need to leap beyond what you're certain of. But consistent, stabilized change can't happen without a sense of safety. You can have moments of falling off the cliff and realizing a whole bunch of stuff. But if you want to bring that back into your daily life, you want to actually rewire your nervous system to live in the world from that more enlightened place, You have to have something to be letting go into. See, the more enlightened place is that you are continually letting go. You allow things to arise, and then you let them go. The deeper work is letting go of things that you've been holding on to for years. And then the present moment work is just letting go of whatever is arising now. Both of those letting goes require you to be letting go into the ground, dropping it to the ground. In muscular tension, it's releasing your muscles so you can trust that the ground will hold you. When we sit with an upright spine in the right posture with the right curvature, the spine is sort of stacked on top of itself, and there is minimal muscular tension to hold you up. Now, at first, our posture is not, we're not used to sitting like that, so it actually is strenuous at first. But as we make that non-strenuous and we find a way of sitting in our natural upright posture, the way that our body was designed to sit and walk, we'll find that it requires minimal effort. And therefore we can just, as long as we have a ground to sit on that's solid, we can drop everything else away, allowing the spine, like a tree holding up the leaves or a coat rack holding up the coats, to just be solid and let everything else fall off. In fact, we can be like a tree in the fall, and we can just let the dead leaves fall off our body to the ground, because we are rooted in the ground. Now, the ground of your concentration object, which is a slightly different concept, it requires some training to develop that. It requires strong concentration. And so it may not feel like the ground at first. When you're learning to concentrate, the object of concentration may not feel like the ground. We are practicing to find the ground inside of it. That is part of what's happening in the mindfulness concentration arena of practices. And before I go into more abstruse or more esoteric kind of stuff, I just want to make a note about life in general. What is the ground of your life right now? And I mean in a very human sense. Where do you feel stabilized, supported, held, safe? And if your life does not feel stabilized, supported, or safe right now, you need to use your concentration and attention and insight to just sort of find the small amounts of safety and support that are in your life and begin there. Begin contacting and elevating those parts of your life. Meditation obviously can teach you more, but this practice of using your attention doesn't require you to sit on a cushion. As you go through your day, where do you feel grounded? Now be careful, where you feel pleasure and where you feel ground are not always the same thing. Pleasure makes it easier for us to find the ground. It's easier for us to find safety if we're feeling pleasure. But I think we all know there's things we can do for pleasure because it makes us feel a little safer that actually are not making us more stable. They aren't actually supporting, or they're not sufficiently strong to support us. You may have had an anxious day, so you turn on Netflix at the end of the day and watch 4 shows, and that might help you relax a little bit. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it may not actually help you feel more safe or stable in your day. Ultimately, because you're getting pulled into another drama. Again, no judgment on that particular activity, just pointing, we can look in our life and we go, well, just because something gives me pleasure, that might be a short route to getting a little sense of safety, but it's not actually what feels like the ground, feels like something that can really hold me up and really support me through life, through transformation. And so it's important to use this word or this concept to think into your life. Where do I feel grounded? And it may take some investigation. And it may not, it may just be immediately obvious. And if it's immediately obvious, then you ask yourself, well, how am I connecting to that ground in my life? What efforts am I making? How much of my attention am I giving to that which makes me feel grounded? Remembering that this is just a human thing and it can change, but the right now, in this moment in your life, this is what feels grounded. So I'm sort of saying there's a sense that the ground is necessary for you to really feel safety. So a way of putting this, the ground is necessary for enlightenment. It's not really my favorite word, enlightenment, but the point is the thing we are aiming for, which is some kind of unconditional happiness and well-being, requires you to have connection to the ground, to a ground. And if it's unconditional, then it needs to be an unconditional ground. So that is a guide to you in asking you, what are we attempting to connect to in our spiritual path? It is a unconditional, universal ground. What do I mean by that? Well, we sit on our cushion and we feel the ground beneath us, and the earth feels unconditional. But I'm in a house and a chair, this chair could break, this chair could wobble, my hip could start to hurt, the floor could fall, there's an earthquake. Eventually this house will fall down, right? It's not an unconditional ground, even in a normal physical sense. It's a good model for an unconditional ground, right? Something solid that seems permanent. It's a good model for it. It's a good way of tuning into what it feels like to be supported. That's why I bring it up. Because the more we explore the feeling of being grounded, the closer we can get to what is it that really makes us feel grounded, ultimately will make us feel grounded all the time. And you can make this, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you can make this into an inquiry question. You can just ask, what is ground? What is it to be grounded? The word settled comes to mind. You might find that word useful. What does it mean to be settled? And then what does it mean to be unconditionally settled? Now, there are answers and words I can give you here, but I'm sensing it might be more useful to just leave the question open. Those of you who have sat with me before have heard me give many answers to this question in words. So it's not like it's a big mystery what one might say. But a universal ground has to be something that's always there. The universal ground has to be something that ultimately can support the letting go of any experience. Universal ground has to be perfectly stable. It's it's a yin and yang situation. We recognize the impermanence of our life, the constant changingness of it, the fact that actually nothing in our experience, in our sensory experience, is stable in the way I'm describing. And so we have to learn to let go of all that, to let go of holding on to any particular experience, because we cannot hold on to it. We think we can, and we cause suffering by continually trying to hold on to an experience we can't hold on to. But the truth of impermanence is really only half of the story. The other half is that the river of impermanence is flowing over the riverbed of the ground. That the impermanent movie that plays across the ground of the screen And so if we're feeling heartbreak, for example, and we want to let it flow through us, we have to have a ground from with which we can support that movement and allow it to drop away into. So the last thing I'll say on this is there's a way of experiencing where you see that every sensory experience, like you can take any experience and just let it go, any particular sense data or whole experience, gestalt of an experience, and you can let it go. And it's almost like it drops a fraction of a millimeter and lands on the ground. Wherever it is, it lands on the ultimate universal ground. It's not even a fraction of a millimeter, of course, because there's no separation between it and the ground. But the idea here is that every experience is grounded. Every experience is connected directly to the ground. And since every experience is connected directly to the ground, every experience is connected directly to every other experience. From the universal ground, you cannot be shaken. Okay. So you can take a couple minutes here. We're going to go into a guided meditation, and we've been sitting already a little bit. If you want to just keep sitting, that's fine. If you want to just stretch a little before we do that, that's fine. I'm going to stop and restart the live on Facebook. I'll be back on Facebook in 2 seconds, and then I'm going to record the meditation.